and welcome to Politics and Business TV. I am Maria Adozakari and this is Business Focus. President Bola Tinubu has signed the 28.7 trillion 2024 budget into law at the Presidential Villa Abuja. The Senate on Saturday passed the bill 2024 budget with an increase of about 1.2 trillion naira, which increased the budget from 27.5 trillion naira presented by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in November to 28.7 trillion naira. Some of the key estimates contained in the budget are capital expenditure at 10 trillion naira, recurrent expenditure at 8.8 trillion naira, debt servicing at 8.2 trillion naira, and statutory transfers at 1.7 trillion naira. Chairman of the Appropriation Committee, Senator Solomon Adiola, who presented his report before the Rate Chamber, said the committee adopted $77.96 per barrel oil benchmark at daily oil production of 1.78 million barrels per day. The committee increased $800 exchange rate to naira as against 750 naira to dollar proposed by the executive. GDP growth rate of 3.88% were approved as proposed by the executive arm of the government. The president assured Nigerians that the implementation of the budget will be efficiently pursued and vigorously monitored. All MDAs have been directed to take responsibility and provide monthly budget performance reports to the Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning. Regular reviews with the economic management team will be implemented with the president as the chairman at the periodic Economic Coordination Council meetings. The brief budget signing ceremony had in attendance senior government officials. Today, on Business Focus, we'll be assessing the 2024 budget. Do stay tuned. We'll be right back for the equity market. Don't go nowhere. Welcome back from that break. We are going to look at the market now. We're going to start with the equity market. Let's take a look at the equity market. That's the highest trades as of close of the year. That's it. Senate tops the list at 380 trades at the volume of 28,878 at the value of 1.115 trillion. UBA follows closely with 340 trades at the volume of 16,130 at the value of 404 million. Transco follows closely with 328 trades at the volume of 12 million at the value of 108 million. Let's take a look at the top gainers as of close of the year. Transco Hotel has positive 10% and LAN Africa also has positive 10%. Multiverse has positive 9.95%. Let's take a look at the bottom losers as of close of the year. Sunu Assurance topped the list with negative 5.17, FTN Cocoa with negative 4.52, and NACO with negative 4.51. Let's take a look at some of our commodities, commodity top performance. We have RBO oil at positive 2.78%. We have natural gas, that's Henry Hub, at positive 1.77%. We also have EEX Strom Phoenix backload at positive 1.42%. Let's take a look at another commodity. Precious metals. Precious metals has topping the list with gold at positive 0.45% and palladium at positive 0.33%. And we have platinum on the list also at negative 0.37%. Let's take a look at another commodity as of close of the year. Let's take a look. That's Energy Hub. Energy tops the list is natural gas, Henry Hub, at positive 1.71% and ethanol at positive 0.05%. Heating oil at positive 0.76%. Let's take a look at another commodity as of close of the year. Agriculture topping the list. We have cotton. Cotton tops the list with positive 0.54%. And oats closed at positive 0.38%. Lumber closed at negative 0.05%. Another commodity, that's industrial metals. Industrial metals close with aluminium topping the list at negative 0.22%. And lead follows closely with positive 5.88%. We have iron ore at positive 0.15%. The naira closed as of last year at the official market at 907, beg your pardon, at the official market, and at the unofficial market the exchange rate was 1,034 naira to a single dollar. Don't go nowhere. We'll come back for the interview segment. We'll be assessing the budget 2024.
Hello there. Worried about complexities and dynamics of business in Nigeria? On Business Focus, we bring you insights from the forefront of industry innovation, business news, latest figures from the stock market with in-depth analysis and even market survey. Let's journey through the ever-evolving world of business and economics, where we decode the latest market moves and provide you with the knowledge to navigate the intricate web of business challenges. This is Business Focus.
We're here to assess the 2024 budget that was just signed into law by the president. We are here with Mr. Agaba Wilson, a business and a financial expert. Good morning, sir, and welcome to Business Focus.
Thank you very much, and good morning.
Okay, Happy New Year to you, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
It's still a new year.
Yeah, it's a new year. We have a new blank sheet to write
yes,
new
we
things
do
on.
have a new blank sheet. Hopefully you would write all the good things.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so we're assessing the budget. And I want to start off with, what do you think is the justification of the addition of 1.2 trillion naira to the budget?
It's not new for budget to come out bearing a new weight.
Okay.
From our National Assembly when it gets into the National Assembly. It's not the first time the National Assembly is changing the figure.
Okay.
I won't be able to justify or otherwise the 1.2 trillion additional figure, because of course these are people we have elected to do this job on our behalf. And I think that they are well qualified and that they know what they are doing, and that they have a cogent reason for adding this. Now, why I'm not worried about what was added is because there's also a provision for urgent budget request, which we call supplementary budget, which the president can, at his discretion, send to the National Assembly at any time. So, but I think what we are going to look at is an analysis of what these monies would be used for, and then whether they will be properly used. And like I also mentioned, a budget is not a stated amount of money that is sitting in an account somewhere that you are going to start debiting and making expenses immediately. You will still have the job to generate the revenue from whence you will spend. So let's not panic too much that some 1.32 trillion has been added to the budget. Let's focus on the items within the budget, and let's focus on implementation. Let's talk more of our worries about the leakages of revenue through corrupt practices and all of those other things.
Okay, so let's jump into the budget. This is the first time in our budget history that the capital component is higher than the recurrent number. So what do you think of that?
Yeah, that is a good thing. That is a good thing. Although I pray and hope that by the time we have our next budget, that our capital would be higher, much, much higher than the recurrent. If you look at the capital budget with the new additional 1.2 trillion,
True.
we have about 10 trillion for capital budget and about 8.2 trillion for recurrent
yes, we do.
Expenses. The recurrent expenses is just made up of salaries and then the excesses and flavorities of people in high places. Now, some of the things some of us have been complaining about for long now is actually the size of our civil service commensurate to the value they offer the country.
Okay.
You would agree with me that at various levels the civil service is overbloated.
Sure.
And that is the reason for some of these overbloated recurrent expenses that you are seeing. Most of them goes into salaries, allowances, star codes, and all of these things. If we can optimize the civil service, I think it will begin to help us in terms of the recurrent expenditure. Let the government focus on regulating, let the government focus on its administrative duties, and let us not start creating jobs by creating agencies that duplicate the job of an existing agency.
Sure.
For instance, you know that up until now, we are still struggling to differentiate the job of the Nigerian police, the Federal Road Safety Corps, the Civil Defense,
the VIO,
and the VIO, and all of this. I think the VIO is a private company that collects revenue on behalf of the government and takes a commission on whatever they collect. I feel, for instance, that a software can do that right now. Why don't you have a software that registers people at the point where they bring the car in? It is put on your name. As long as it's remaining in your shop, you are paying certain amount.
Sure.
And whenever you sell, because you will continue to pay certain amount, you force the buyer to do change of ownership. And the person sign a global standing instruction, sure, provides a BVN. At the expiration of the paper, you just notify me and first debit my account. Then the bank tells me your account is in debit. And then if I don't go to pay within certain time, the bank provides my detail to the EFCC, who now arrest me for
sure, financial
crime.
Sure.
And then, you know, by the time you do this, everybody, including the president, if he has a private car, we pay for that and we have revenue going up. You know, so if we remove some of these excesses, then we will have the civil service size go down and there will be efficiency. I'll tell you, if you go to, by next week when the work fully resumes, go to the Federal Secretariat, and you will run into people who don't have a job description.
A lot of them, actually.
Yes, they are civil servants. But if you tell them, what is your job description? They will not know. But what they do is to show up every day, go and sign, and then maybe go and sell granite, or maybe go and do a taxi, or even go home and run their school, or do whatever else.
That's for those that actually do come in.
Exactly. So you see, it is overbloated for nothing. It is not giving us value for what it should give. So let's tighten up the administrative aspect of the governance so that civil service is streamlined. If you are in the office, you know that I have a job X, Y, Z to do. And then there's a way to monitor the activities. And when you talk about this, they say, okay, should we just sack people? I say,
yes,
no, we don't have to sack people. What we need to do is to pause employment so that when people go, you just re-optimize the system. You re-optimize the system, reorganize the people so that over the years, people are going out. And then we can look at other important agencies that, for instance, we need a border security system.
Sure.
So we can remove some of the young people, train them, and send them to the border. We can add more to the police. You know, there are several other aspects that people really need to work, like our revenue agencies. We can have more people in the revenue agencies so that they can have more hands to go out there and collect the revenue, do enlightenment and all of those things that the government should do. So if we do this, the salaries will come down significantly. And then we can begin to focus on providing those things that will help the economy become more active and productive. If we continue to have this much, I for one, I'm not in support of the size of the cabinet of this particular government because you have 48 ministers, I think.
True.
And then each of these 48 ministers will have special assistants, they will have special advisors, they have SA to SAs and all of that. And a lot of money is going to, and you see, I am not saying the work is not enormous, but we can actually optimize. We can actually optimize. Some of the ministries we even have, I think we are just duplicating for nothing. Sure. Because these ministries also still have agencies and parastatals under them, departments and all of that, that handles each part of this work. Why do we need to duplicate a lot of ministers? If you head a ministry and you have agencies, departments, parastatals under you, the work is squarely divided in their hand. And then you can have the head of each of the MDAs. You can have them in your meeting where you discuss your strategy, where you call them to give their report and all of that. So I don't see why we should have all of this. So all of these things now are adding to the recurrent expenditure because these people have to be paid. When they travel, their allowance have to be paid. When they go to any places, accommodation, transportation, and all of these things. Sure. So like one of my professors told me in a class about a few weeks before the holiday, we were discussing this issue, and he told me that what we do in the Nigerian government is like when you buy a bag of cement from Kefi for 5,000, you then hire a truck for 60,000 to move the one bag of cement from Kefi to Akwanga.
That's not sensible.
It doesn't make sense.
True.
But that's like what we have in our government, almost at all levels, both at federal and at state. You have a small proportion of the budget taking care of capital expenditure, and then you have a huge chunk of it to take care of the recurrent expenditure. And in true sense, in layman language, the recurrent expenditure is just what you pay in order to deliver the capital projects.
Sure.
So you see how his analogy of hiring a trailer of 60,000 to just carry a bag, so I think that it's a wonderful thing that we now have 2 trillion, approximately 2 trillion more added to the capital budget than the recurrent budget. But we can do more. We can reduce that amount. We can reduce it drastically if we really want to do it. And I think this will begin from the politicking aspect. Okay. Civil society organization, like the media like you, we are shining light on it and all of that now. I think we should bring these conversations up. And this have been happening, but I think we should do more. We should harp on it more. We should engage the National Assembly more.
The government would argue that most of those duplicates are actually doing something different than the others.
You see,
because they were created for a reason.
Yeah, most times.
They were broken down actually for.
Okay, I'm going to give you an example. Let's take the Nigerian government as a private entity. Okay. Do you think if you are the owner of Nigeria Limited, in this case,
Limited, yes,
you would create those agencies? Would you?
Probably not.
Good. Now, that is why I tell you that from where I sit, I don't have the information they have, but I know that even if I have the same information, if you have the best interest of the country at heart, you won't create those things.
Sure.
Chances are, and I say this as my personal opinion, but I think a lot of the audience will agree with me, chances are that most of those duplications are just to gratify people, political associates, people who made it happen for you to be in the office, just to make the position go round.
Everybody gets their
everybody, you just have to get something,
Okay, so moving on, Mr. Wilson, moving on, the president assured Nigerians that the budget will be implemented properly. He mentioned there would be meetings and he would share some of the meetings. So how effective do you think that is? And there's the instruction to the MDAs to actually remit the details of the budget they've spent monthly. So how effective would this be? Because this is a policy that is really interesting and that should work if effectively put in place. So do you think that this would work?
You see,
who would monitor who and how would that be? Let's paint a picture for us.
A lot of time on shows like this, people ask me, Can it work?
It's a good question.
Would it work?
It's a necessary question.
They are good questions. But the truth is that it can work. It would work if those who needs to make it work are ready to make it work.
So in this case, who would monitor who?
Now, I'll give you an example. Many times we complain about who is going to be in what office and all of that. And then we raise hell all about these issues unnecessarily. The cabinet does not capture people from this zone and all of that. If you look at the American system where we copied this democracy, there are institutions on ground that grinds on their own, whether or not there is a president. For instance, if after the election there is a winner of the presidential election, and then a sitting president, for instance, does not want to leave, it is not up to him to leave. There's a system in place that will evacuate him as his tenure is coming to an end. The system says we are going to build a house for the president, the former president at XYZ location of his choosing. You would have chosen that like 1 or 2 years into your administration. They would have put everything in place. So on the day that you become the ex-president, wherever you are, the Secret Service that is driving you will receive instruction to take you to that house. And they will take you to that house, drop you there, and then those that are supposed to resume work with the next president will resume work. So you see, no matter who you are, you can't change the system that much.
True.
There is a system that grinds on its own.
So what system do you think we need?
Let's look at our own. Do we have a system that works that way? Every system works, waits for the new president to come. The IGP of police, the head of ICPC, the head of EFCC, even in the judiciary, we have some kind of aspect of it that is influenced by the president.
Sure.
So at the end of the day, we have given so much power to the president.
So that's one person.
So that president has to also live up to that power by being in so many places. Because at the end of the day, the buck stops on his desk. So now, let's give an instance. How many ministries do we have? Now, can the president sit down to read the report from this ministry every month?
No, he wouldn't be the one to sit down. The Minister of Budget and Economic Planning would do that while...
This is hoping that the Minister of Budget and Planning also have enough time to read through this thing and is also willing and able to commit and ensure the implementation of the president's intent for this agency. Now, when they also give you these reports, what are the mechanisms you can use to cross-check this information? So it's a large chunk of work. It would have been perfect if we have people in our system who are dedicated to building the country. People who, without being persuaded, are committed to doing what is right.
That's the Economic Planning
Exactly.
Committee.
So, but you know that it is not our virtue. The democratic society is planned on the assumption that every citizen of the society knows what is good for the society.
Sure.
Is 100% committed to doing what is right for the society.
True.
And is willing to make sacrifice to do what is right for the society. Let's play this assumption side by side our country. Okay. Number one, do we all know what is right for the society and not for ourselves?
We actually do.
Number two, are we all committed to making that happen? Are we willing to make sacrifices? These are people that have signed an agreement that I will resume work by 8 o'clock and close by 4 o'clock. Yet they go to work by 11 o'clock and close by 2 o'clock.
For those that come in.
For those that come in, exactly. I like the way you keep bringing that in. So it's something that can work. But a lot of work needs to go into it in order to make it work. All the presidents that have come before would have loved to leave a hero. Leave the seat with a mark that people will talk about for a long time. But they have been betrayed by the system that have been entrenched over time. So you have a system that doesn't want to work. So when you move forward, the system drags you back. And since it's a democracy, there's not much you can do. Remember the issue of a certain minister that locked the gate last year? Was it not last year? Locked the gate, closed the gate on people who came late to work after giving series of warning. What happened? A particular union made him apologize. For locking the gate, closing the gate on late comers after a series of warning has been issued. That will not happen if it is not a democracy. In fact, all of those people will be sacked, which is the right thing. In a private organization, you can't try that. Sure. Can you come to work, or maybe you are supposed to present this show, and you come here by 11:30, and then your program
by 11:30,
and your program manager say, "Look, stay outside," and then you begin to protest. Who are you? So you see, these are some of the downsides of democracy, because you have the next election in focus. Sure. You can't just sack 1,000 people, you know, because this 1,000 people can use a multiplier effect to truncate your next election. So you have to pander to them. A minister was made to apologize for the right thing that he has done.
So talking about that, you mentioned the judiciary. The president has said that he's going to invest in promotion and also create rules-based society where the law would favor no individual. He mentioned that he is going to look at the important effects in the Nigerian judiciary, that is. So how do you think that would curb all of this? How should he go about those important reforms for the judiciary?
You know what I would say? I would say let's leave that discussion to judicial experts. All right? How he would reform that should be left to the judicial officer. But here's something I can tell you about our system. You and I know that when a president says, I am going to make sure we run a rule-based society, it is good to say that. But legally, you know we have three arms of the government.
True.
You have the executive, you have the legislature, you have the judiciary. Now, the legislature make the rule, the judiciary interpret it, the executive execute.
Sure.
All right? Do you think it is right for the president to tell the judiciary what to do?
That's infringing on their own work.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So, but can the president work with the judiciary to be more efficient?
Yes, he can.
The answer is yes. So maybe he can explore that option. But again, in order to achieve that, one must also have to live by example, sure, which most of our presidents have never been able to do absolutely because of exigencies.
Sure.
Now, this is where the problem always is. Because if the rule becomes selective, then even the implementer of the rule becomes confused. So it's either the judiciary is going to be led to grind based on what has been laid down and do what they got to do, irrespective of whose ox is God. Or if you are going to keep pressing buttons to say pause on this and do this, then they will wait for you for all
the go ahead. True.
You know, so at the end of the day, making the judicial system strong is not a thing we say with mouth. And it is not going to be about money. It is going to be about strong personality, strong will, and it's going to be about exemplary living from the executive. I always tell people, I say Nigeria will begin to get better when we come to a point where every Nigerian say, I won't steal, but I won't let you steal.
Okay, not just
me. Yes, I won't derelict on my job. And I will also make sure that you do your job.
Well, that's interesting.
When we get to that point, Nigeria will start to take a turn.
That's really interesting. We'll have to put a pin on that. We are discussing the 2024 budget that was just signed into law. This is Politics and Business TV. Do stay with us. Welcome back from that break. We are on Business Focus and we are talking about the budget 2024. Mr. Wilson, would you say the high exchange rate will increase the cost of debt servicing at the long run and further widen the budget deficit?
Well, I was thinking about that on my way here, and I was doing the simulation in my head. Because I saw that in the budget, our exchange rate was pegged at 800 per USD.
Per dollar.
That was an increase from the earlier 750.
True.
And as at today, I think the exchange rate is about 900 and something official. From what you even read,
yes,
900 and something. And it hasn't been 800 in a long time.
Yeah.
And from my perspective, I don't see what we would be doing to reduce the pressure on the Naira in the nearest future. As long as we keep importing fuel, which takes up about 30% of our USD or Forex demand, that pressure is going to be there. Nigerians also are mostly import dependent. We don't even want to buy the clothes that we wear from here.
Sure.
If it were possible, we will import our water and everything. And you see,
some of us actually do that.
So there was an agric minister some years ago that said Nigerians import was it pizza or burger
from another country.
Yes, from another country. You know, so as long as that keeps happening, it's a simple law of economics. When demand increase, price will increase. And when supply overwhelms demand, price will reduce. In the case of Naira and USD, the demand is always higher because of we are an import-dependent country. Look at all the government officials, ranging from the president himself down to even a local government councillor. They buy cars that are produced abroad.
Yes.
That is pressure on the Naira. Most of them buy drinks that are made abroad. These are pressures on the Naira. Most of them go on medical tourism abroad for even ailment that could naturally be treated here. This is pressure on the Naira.
Sure.
You know, so, and most of them also go on frivolous travels that they call official travel. We want to go and sign a contract with Chinese. We want to go and do this. They go out, they go everywhere. And all of these things you do, when you put them together, it becomes significant.
So do you think you should stop going out?
I think we should minimize because we can't stop completely.
Okay.
And we cannot become self-sufficient at once. Let's say, for instance, we want to grow the industries in the country. Now, we don't have the heavy equipment. The heavy equipment has to be imported. But if we were spending on heavy equipment, then I would be happy. I would say, let's do the investment now. And when it begins to churn out, we begin to make the gains.
Sure.
But when we invest this Forex on consumptions, it's not going to help us anytime soon. Now, another aspect would have been to increase our export. One of our major export products is oil, and maybe the gas project we are developing right now. And you see that our oil production has been an issue. For a long time, we were not even able to meet our OPEX quota.
Sure.
And so if we have, and you know about the oil theft, bunkering, and all of these things that we have, insecurities around it and all of that. Now you also have the issue of food and insecurity, bringing us down with that in the northeast, northwest, north central. These are the hubs for certain kind of grains and tuber crops and all of that feed us. But now these people can't go to farm, you know. So we are going to have issue of food, and we are going to have to import again. So these are delicate issues. But let's now see the impact of an increased naira to dollar rate. Now, in the first place, let's look at our debt servicing for all the debt that we're taking in USD or in pounds or in any foreign country currency. As the naira dips, it means we have to gather more naira to be able to pay that debt. True. So that's going to be a problem for us. So if the naira dips, then we are going to do more to gather money. But assuming we were earning money from export, if the naira dips, it's good for us, because any small foreign currency that comes in, or hard currency, can be a lot of naira and can do a lot within the economy. Sure. But since we don't produce much, a falling naira is not actually good for us. Right. So a country like China, for instance, can decide to devalue their currencies so that whatever comes from China becomes cheaper than any other country in the international market, meaning more market will come to China, you know. But we don't produce. So a falling naira will not be good for us in that terms. So you can see that it's going to have a very huge impact negatively on our debt servicing. And if we are gathering more naira to service foreign debts, then less naira will be available for whatever we do in-house. Another aspect of it is that our major infrastructures like railroad, ports, airport, and all of that, most of the components will come from abroad. And some of the contracts may even be in foreign currency. Yeah. So it means in that aspect too, our spending will also be very limited. And if you look at it, though this budget is high in naira, if you convert it back to that, it is not that higher than what we had under the previous administration. And I say this because we are import dependent in most facets of our life.
Sure. Okay, so Mr. Wilson, we're talking about the budget now. Yeah. It was said that some experts actually expected the budget to be increased by the National Assembly. Would you say that that should be the norm? Because the president has actually put in work, the president's office that is has put in work before giving out the 27.8 trillion, and then they actually did not take that, they increased it by 1.2. So would you say it is coming from the president's office that they did not do their homework well, probably? Or would you say there is something going on?
No, well, it has almost become a norm in Nigeria for the National Assembly to bring back a budget that is bigger than what was sent to them. Okay. But I don't know from where they derive that power. But maybe our legal luminaries will shed light on this. Maybe I will hope that you call a legal expert to come and talk on this, and I would watch so that I can learn. Okay. But I actually thought that the job of the National Assembly was to scrutinize the budget to ensure that it aligns with the goals of the country, both short-term and long-term. Then the other function is, if they are okay with it, they can now say, we want to see how you implement this. That is why they have Senate committee on this, House committee on that. Sure. That is their job, to monitor, but not to impute. And on the other side too, I think that the executive should do more of consultation when they are doing their budget.
Actually, they do the consultations. That's what I'm saying.
But if the consultation is exhaustive, Why do we have the National Assembly always coming up with a new figure? Because if your input was, if you were consulted before we made the budget, you would have made suggestions for your constituency or whatever it is, and we would have taken cognizance of that in the budget. So by the time it comes to you, it should just be, okay, let's look at it. Is it what we expected? Is it in the direction that Nigeria wants to go and all of that?
True.
But the fact that they keep doing budget from the National Assembly, maybe a day will come when the executive will relinquish that function to the National Assembly and say, since anytime we do budget, it doesn't suit you, you should be doing the budget. Or maybe the National Assembly should make a law to remove that function from the president and domicile it in the parliamentary so that they can be doing it.
So that it's one time.
Exactly.
You can go back and forth. So, Mr. Wilson, on a conclusive note, what do you think of the key estimates in the budget? That's the 10 trillion for capital expenditure, 8.8 trillion for recurrent expenditure, for debt servicing, 8.2 trillion, and for statutory transfers, 1.7 million. What do you think of all those figures?
These are figures that...
are they good for us?
Whether it is good for us or not, these are figures that we are obliged
to work with.
Because you cannot say, I won't pay somebody's salary. So you will pay the salary.
True.
And if the person is working for you, you will pay them all their allowances.
True.
As stipulated. So for the recurrent expenditure, that is taken care of already because we have those people working. They must be paid.
True.
And then for the statutory transfer, those are things that we have committed to over time. We cannot renege right now.
Are the numbers good for the economy then? Are the figures good enough for our economy? Because our economy is already struggling.
Good and bad in itself is relative.
Okay.
You have to draw a starting point to be able to say it's good in this dimension. I am worried about whether or not we'll be able to generate that much money.
Okay.
Because I am not comfortable with our debt services as it is. Okay. So I pray that it works for our economy. I pray that it works for our economy. And I know it can if the leadership do as much as they should do to make it work. All right? So I think that's all I can say for now.
Okay, so do you think we should expect a supplementary budget? Because the president mentioned that he wants a whole year budget circle. He does not want a supplementary budget. But do you think that is possible? That's the projection on the budget.
Supplementary budget is always possible, as long as there is a provision for it. As long as a provision for it in the Constitution.
Yes, there is.
It is always possible. And I think that the president may not be able to state that right now, that he wouldn't need a supplementary budget. Things can pop up. Sure. And then there will be a need for supplementary budget. We are all humans. No matter how imperturbable the budget seems to have been, there could be some places where you didn't see one or two things. Or some of the indexes you have chosen, like exchange rate, like amount of oil that will be and revenue that will be collected domestically and all of that. If those things are not meeting your benchmark,
you would have to.
Yeah, you have to. Certain things may change drastically and you would have to ask for more.
So all in all, this is a good budget.
It is a good budget.
Budget of renewed
for a budget.
Okay. For a Nigerian budget.
It is a good budget as a budget.
Okay.
Yes. But the goodness, in quote, of a budget lies in its implementation.
So we hope for it to be implemented
We hope that it be implemented properly.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Agaba. This is Mr. Agaba. We just talked about the budget 2024 on Business Focus. We'll see you tomorrow. My name is Maria Adozakari. Do have a good day.